I was born in East Chicago, Indiana. And my father was a contractor. He was the first black contractor in East Chicago. And his father was a contractor in Memphis. And my father had 6 kids. And I was in the middle of the 6, 3 boys, 3 girls. When I was 5, he took me to work with him and taught me how to do a lot of the trades that later on was quite useful for me in terms of architecture.
I always knew I wanted to be an architect. In fact, when I was 5 years old, I remember him working on our home and remodeling our basement. And I always told my parents, this is what I want to be. So when I was 13 years old, he started me out as the office boy, delivering packages, looking over people's shoulders, asking a million questions.
That's my nephew, Kevin Campbell. Now Kevin, he's been with me since the 8th grade. He was born on my birthday, and my brother and them started to name him me, Window, after me.
My dad would drop me off at Granddaddy's house in the mornings, and I would hang with him all day while my dad was at work.
My father would be sometimes babysitting when he didn't have jobs, or he had her that he would have to carry around and babysit. She was grandpa's baby, and she grew up around all those tools and everything.
Ironically, I was not actually focused on the business at that time. I was just being a kid playing with my grandfather, and I don't know if through osmosis it just sunk in what he did so that it would have an impact later in life. But I went off to college and thought that I would be a marketing or management consultant when I graduated, and really had no interest in architecture or urban planning at the time, but needed a job after finishing school. And so, you know, when I started working after school, I actually started really looking at what the field of architecture was all about, and became interested more in urban planning at that time through politics, actually. I took a leave and worked on some political campaigns, and then went back to school for planning and architecture after that.
My daughter, she feels that she's a good interior decorator as well as planner, and my nephew, he too feels the same way. So it's good to have them in the firm, but I tell them they have to be as competitive and better than anybody else if they want to take over this firm.
I always liked what architects could do, and the more I looked at how he approached architecture in making it not just about building a building, but building neighborhoods and communities, you know, that really inspired me, because I enjoy not building houses, but building homes. You know, and that to me is what architecture is really about. I tell people there's designers who dream things, but architects that build things.
I always said if I had my own firm, I'd want to treat my staff the way I would want to be treated. And it's worked out very well for me. We've been now about almost 36 years in operation, and we haven't missed the payroll.
I think particularly for minority businesses, it's crucial that any kind of trade knowledge of whatever it is that we do is passed on to the next generation, because there are so many obstacles out there in the business world for anyone. And if you're a minority in particular, you're not going to get the same kind of intimate knowledge of how a business operates as you would if you were working in mainstream America, because people just don't care. And because we tend to be more family-based as a culture, if we're not passing that on to the next generation, then we're looking at our culture to die eventually, because no one else is going to pass that on to us.
It's about family. It's about our family. It's about the families of the folks that work here. It's about the families that we serve in building homes and churches and hospitals and public buildings and schools. You know, that was our mission from day one, to make this something that lives beyond him, that extends beyond our immediate family, and makes this really an institution for the community. That this is the one place that people know that they get served and not just serviced.
I think really outside of the family, and I look at just African Americans in general through this country, and I start thinking about historically how important the field of architecture and construction was, and how blacks and African Americans played such a major role in that field in founding this country and building it. And you look around now and you say, well, you know, of the field at large, we're such a small percentage. What happened there? You know, when we used to be the predominant builders, and if you go out now in the streets of Chicago and you see who's working these construction crews, and it's the Polish immigrants, it's the Russian immigrants, it's the latest immigrants to come to this country. Well, what happened to us? That used to be our role. You know, we were the ones who were building and planning and designing everything. And I'd like to see us regain some of that market back.
Architecture is a cultural event in a community, and maintaining these traditions and passing the torch keeps that culture alive. It doesn't dilute it. It keeps it in the community, renews itself, and extends to the next generation. So I look at my niece Lauren and my children that are coming up, and they're the next generation. And so really, this is just the first step in Susan.